This is BBC One. Now, the 6 o'clock news with Anna Ford and Jill Dando.
The government is tonight officially in a minority following the death of another Conservative MP. John Major said it was business as usual and a general election would come at what he called the appropriate time. Lee Clegg, the paratrooper convicted of murdering a Belfast teenager, is having his case referred back to the Court of Appeal. Ford confirms that Halewood will lose 1,300 jobs. The Prime Minister describes the decision as very surprising. And Brian Harvey, lead singer of the group E17, apologises for saying that ecstasy was a safe drug. Good evening. The government is tonight in a minority at Westminster following the sudden death of one of its backbenchers. Iain Mills, the MP for Meriden and the West Midlands, was found dead at his home. He was 56. His death adds to the immediate problems facing Mr Major in the run-up to his preferred general election date in May. Told of the news shortly before question time this afternoon, the Prime Minister said that business would carry on as intended. Conservatives in the Commons are now outnumbered by the combined forces of the opposition, and the government also faces a difficult by-election in the Wirral constituency. Our chief political correspondent John Sargent reports.
The Prime Minister was told of the death of the Tory MP just before he left for question time at the Commons. Mr Major's view was that it did not affect the immediate position. The government would remain the government, he said. There were important measures they wished to see put through Parliament before an election would be called. Iain Mills was only 56. He was found dead in his London flat. According to a party spokesman, he died of natural causes. He had a big majority in the West Midlands seat of Meriden. When Tony Blair this afternoon pressed the Prime Minister on the election, it was not generally known that Mr Major was now leading a minority government.
Call the general election. Call it now and let us all put our arguments to the verdict of the people.
Well, that will come in due course, and I look forward to that. Campaign.
There is one by-election already pending in Wirral South in Cheshire. No date has been set for the contest, but the Tories who are defending the seat have indicated it will be held within the next couple of months unless a general election intervenes. It's in the committees of the House of Commons where the opposition complain the Tories should now lose their built-in majority. But the government insist until new MPs are elected, the old balance should remain.
So far as the Committee of Selection is concerned, because the two deaths were deaths of Conservative members, we believe that they are still counted numerically, so far as committees are concerned, as two Conservatives.
In key Commons votes, the government are now more than ever dependent on the 9 votes of the Ulster Unionists. In the last close vote over the beef crisis in November, they voted against, and the government only won by just 1 vote. In all but name, the election campaign is already underway. Labour this morning accused the Tories of being ready to put VAT on food, an allegation angrily denied by the government. The general election may not in practice come earlier as a result of the death of Iain Mills, but it will make it just that more difficult for Conservative Party managers. They will have to work even harder to avoid votes on which all the opposition parties could combine against them, and it's yet another blow to Tory morale. Anna.
John, on a tight vote the government could be in trouble, couldn't they? What do you think the chances are of an early election?
Well, it's a distinct possibility, but I think we've got to remember what happened with the last Labour government. They had the Lib Lab Pact, the arrangement with the Liberals to sustain them, and that broke up in the autumn of 1978. But it wasn't until much later, right through until April of the next year, that the government were finally defeated on a vote of confidence. So there was a long period when the Labour government managed to be in a minority and succeeded to remain the government. But what you don't know is whether or not quite quickly the Ulster Unionists might be in a position where on a vital vote they would feel the interests of Northern Ireland as they saw it would have to come first and the government could fall. So it's a distinct possibility, frankly, from now on.
And what sort of issues could bring the government down?
Well, the close vote before Christmas was on beef, and that's a problem for the government because all the opposition parties combine in attacking the government over their handling of the beef crisis. So that's one possibility. And of course it depends really if the Ulster Unionists want to find an excuse. They could, for example, choose a national health issue and say this affected Northern Ireland in a particular way and would bother them. So we've got to watch out even more carefully now for those issues where the Ulster Unionists may feel it's a good issue on which they are going to show that they're not in the pocket of the government.
But there was some good news today, wasn't there, on the economy?
Yes, there was some good news. Good news on inflation. The first fall in inflation since last August. It's now the headline figure 2.5%. So the government are extremely pleased about that. And also the decision announced today that there'll be no change in interest rates. So this is one of the reasons why the government are hoping to play it long for the good economic news to continue and for the Prime Minister to perhaps hold the election in May.
John, thank you very much.